Welcome back to part two of the Hot Air Sports Podcast with me, Macca, and my good mate Mahona. Well, we've talked football, Olympics, Chelsea's unbelievably big squad, and the All Blacks. Um, Something that, this year I think a lot of people had high hopes for, and they haven't quite materialised, and that's the mighty One New Zealand Warriors.
Yeah.
Haven't quite achieved the expectations, have they, of the pre-season hype?
No, it's been a familiar year, to be fair. If you're a Warriors fan, as I am from way back in 1995, you have experienced this more than you've experienced last year. Last year was just incredible. People were on the bandwagon, you know. We were playing, a lot of the players were playing above their probably value and their status, and they were just playing so well out of their skins, and they looked well coached, well drilled. They knew what they were doing. It was just awesome. I absolutely loved it. This year has been a major disappointment for a number of reasons, and I think the main part of it is that we recruited well. We got Roger. We did. Chanel came back and all that sort of thing. And this year, for me, we've played well in parts. Our best rugby league is as good as the top four. Our best rugby league, but we only play it for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes a game, and we just haven't hung in games. And in the NRL, you just can't do that. You just got to play 80 minutes. If you don't play 80 minutes, you'll lose. And we lost, especially in the first half of the season, so many games by less than 6 points when we gave away tries for stupid defense, individual errors, um, and momentum swings for whatever reason, whether it be especially the referee. I can go on about the refereeing in the bunker forever and ever and ever, but it's never going to give us points, or so we can go about VAR. Uh, so yeah, it has been incredibly disappointing. But I'm just an eternal optimist. I've still got hope that this team can produce something in its life cycle as a team. We're losing Adam Fanor-Blake. That's going to be a massive loss, but he hasn't been the same sort of player this year, and I think we will be more motivated when we get the big fella from Penrith next year as a prop. They're going to be him and Mitch Barnett are going to make a great forward platform that we can lay the platform for. And we've just signed Aaron Clark as well. Have you heard about him?
No.
From the Titans. He's a really good player. He's an absolute beast. He's actually Timapara Clark, her son.
Oh,
And he's
okay.
been playing for the Titans the last 2 or 3 years. Absolute powerhouse second rower. Obviously, we're losing Jazz as well. He's coming to replace Jazz, and there's been much gnawing of teeth about Jazz. And I bloody love Jazz, man. What a great guy. But he's 27, 28, and it's much the same as when players in football reach that thing. They want more money. We either keep Jazz Tavanga and we don't keep other young guys. Like we've got this guy Zion Maiu, who's an up and coming prop, who's just an absolute beast. He's 20 years old. Leka Halasima, who's looked incredible as well. He's only 18. Jacob Laban, 20. Dimitrik Sifakula, he's only 20. Now, all four of those guys we signed on about the same money that Jazz gets. So do you keep a guy who's 28 and does that, or do you keep these young guys coming through? And that's always the balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we're recruiting well. I've still got hope. Look, Sean Johnson's perhaps the biggest thing that we have to talk about, because it's going to be tonight is his last game
Yeah.
at Sean Johnson Stadium. They've named the stadium after him, which is really nice. The big thing about Sean Johnson for me is that he's almost had a career in two phases. The first phase was just his incredible natural talent, stepper, could beat players, left, right, and centre, and score incredible tries. And the second part and he got us to a grand final, almost doing that. And the second one, he got us to within a game of the grand final, playing a completely different way in a team that was more organised, and he had more specific plays in line. And he just played out of his skin last year. So for me, I still think Stacey Jones is the greatest halfback that the Warriors have ever had. But Sean Johnson, for me, has to be close second. And fair quits to the guy, man. I mean,
Mm.
so many people said, "Oh, he can't be a controller. He can't. Well, he proved he could, and he's had hella injuries this year, and he had them last year too. I just think, and when we re-signed him from the Sharks, a lot of people said, "Oh, what the fuck? We're wasting our money." I thought it was worth a punt because we weren't paying him that much money to come back, but we offered him, 750,000 to play again next year. So obviously they think that he's still got it in him. He's taken the really mature decision to retire. I mean, what more can you say about the guy?
Yeah.
266 games, 85 tries, 553 goals, 223 try assists for 1,464 points. That's pretty good, man. He might even make the NRL Hall of Fame at some stage. So fair quits to Princess. I mean, they're calling him the Prince now. They've taken the S. Remember when they came in, they used to call him Princess. I'll still call him Princess. The Princess of Penrose. I'll salute him tonight. With a cold beverage on the couch watching the Warriors because I couldn't get a ticket. And that's the other thing with the Warriors. They've done a hell of a lot of good work off the field this year. I mean, sold out all the games. They're going to Vegas next year. They're going to have more fans, more Warriors fans than all the other three teams put together have applied for tickets over there. So, yeah, it's been a shit season, really. We've underachieved. We overachieved last year. Let's see if next year we can just achieve what we can achieve with our team. James Fisher-Harris next year, man. Yeah. It's going to be neat to see. I mean, bring it on, man. Bring it on. Bring it on. Next year's our year. Go the Warriors. Up the Warriors.
Oh, of course it is. A couple of questions about Johnson. You talk about the two phases of his career.
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking more of three phases. Yes, that great start the first 4 or 5 years, but then he sort of went into a bit of a lull, didn't he? And had a couple of not so great years before he then went to Cronulla, didn't do much there. And then, as you say, the Warriors re-signed him and he's been gangbusters.
I think a lot it comes down to injury. He did an ACL, did an Achilles, mate. I mean, he lost his pace, He used to be lightning fast, When you see that first season, that try he scored against the Broncos from, 30 yards on his own side of halfway, and he beat like 6 or 7 guys. He was just lightning, and when you do those sorts of injuries, you just don't have that extra. There's that, Hammersmith Tebow. I struggle with his name. The guy that plays fullback for the Dolphins, the Hammer, they call him. That's an easier way to say it. He is incredibly fast. He was the fastest guy clocked in the NRL this year when he chased down the Fox the other day. He was clocked at something like close to it was ridiculous. It's like 38, 39 kilometers, nearly 40 kilometers an hour. Here's the closest thing I think I've seen to Christian Cullen. I would say that Sean Johnson at his peak was just about as fast. He was so fast, man. But losing that pace, I think injury changes the player you have to be. And you're like, right, he lost his way. He thought, I can do it in Australia. He got injured over there again. He thought, I'm going to come back. So that's why I said the two phases. I was sort of thinking the two phases for the Warriors. Yeah, he did in the middle of his career. But I think that's just great that he had that third act. If
100%.
That he's been able to come back on his own terms and see the stadium full. And it's just a pity we couldn't see him out. That's been the thing for me
this year is even though the team hasn't performed that well, they're packing that stadium out week in, week out.
And the supporters, man, they're not like just people that's sitting there going, oh well done, or boo. They are people that fucking love the Warriors, man. They just love the Warriors. They go, they're on the Spywar, man, and they're just absolutely freaking nuts. And it's so great. It's so great.
Michelle and I went to the All Blacks test against Argentina at the Sky Stadium the other week. And it really was that experience. Pathetic rugby crowd.
Go on, tell me about it.
They really are pathetic. We got about 4 breakouts of
Black. What about when they kicked off? Hang on, let's go back to that. All the photos, and I was watching it on TV. I was like, "Where is the crowd?"
And
just before kickoff, there was
only 25,000 there.
What the hell? Why did they only get 25,000 to an All Blacks test?
I mean,
that was shocking when I was
crazy.
I just thought, man, that is just bizarre. The Warriors can get 25,000 for a game of general rugby league, and you can't get 25,000 for an All Blacks test now. That says something about the game, and if the rugby, the holders of the power of New Zealand rugby, if that doesn't scream to them, they got to do something different. I mean, just
get another test. There's another test in Wellington at the end of September against the Wallabies. So If they
But
don't,
get the crowd more engaged. I've
oh,
been look lately, mate. You go to the Warriors game after the game. If they win, they put the Warriors song on. Everyone sings the song.
yep.
You feel like, I mean, okay, I'm not a big fan of all the bloody music and all the breaks, but I mean, I'm in my 50s. You know, it's not for
Yeah.
me. Um, but everything else, the crowd's engaged. They have Pukana Cam, oh, everyone's doing, and it just engages them. They have sprint competitions at halftime. They're not afraid to try things and think, oh shit, that didn't work. Let's try something else next week. The All Blacks is just, sometimes it's just so sanitized. It's so,
Oh,
we can't do that because we're the All Blacks and we're the best,
preaching to the
I,
converted ear, son.
I know. But it was just sad to see an All
Yeah.
Blacks test without a full house. I mean, it's been so long.
Yeah, and another couple of things on the Warriors. You obviously watched a lot more than I did.
Yep.
I did watch a few games, probably more than I have done in previous
Did you
years.
watch the Penrith game? That was the best
No,
game
no,
this
I
year.
didn't watch the Penrith
Oh, that
game.
was just
But
magic round when we had all the
how,
players out.
I mean, Kurt Capewell was a big signing for them.
Yep.
How much of a
Yep.
difference did he make? Or did he
Not
just
a,
sort of end up being
yeah,
very
a
average?
failure. Okay. He's not an average player. He's a really good player. I think he's actually played really well the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think when the chips are down and we've been pretty crap, or he started really poorly. I think he had
He had
an
injury
injury.
problems too,
He
didn't he?
did. He did. He struggled to get on the field and get the minutes, and I think that I mean he didn't have a preseason, and that sort of struggled, and then yeah, his game has picked up throughout the year. I would just hope that he could start stronger next year. He played State of Origin, man. I mean, they
Mm.
picked him for State of Origin, and he played well in State of Origin, even though Queensland they lost anyway. I mean, well, less said about that, the better. If you're a Queensland fan, but I mean, no, I think he's still got something to give. I think he's a good player. He's a solid citizen. He does a lot of the dirty work you don't see if you don't really know a lot about rugby league.
Yeah.
He just goes around the fringes and stuff like that. Makes some hard runs, some real hard runs, and he's a good ball distributor as well. No, I like Kurt Capewell. I mean, he's probably underachieved from what I thought he could, but the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've seen signs that he's back to his best. So happy with him. Hmm.
Excellent. So, well, there we go. There's the
Oh, hang
there's
on,
talk
one
of the
more thing.
Warriors.
One more thing on rugby league before we do go. They had the inductions into
Yes.
the NRL Hall of Fame. So Jonathan Thurston, Benji Marshall, Sam Burgess, Greg Inglis, Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, Steve Renouf.
Ran off.
Ran off, did he? He ran off. Benny Elias. Oh, Benny Elias. Great to see him on there. Les Boyd. That was a bit of a controversial one. And Lionel Morgan. Now, that's from way back. But Les Boyd obviously broke Daryl Broman's jaw in the State of Origin 1984. And Daryl Broman came out in the press, the big man, and said, "What the hell is he doing on that list? He's a dirty bastard." Because he got, I think he got, for breaking his jaw in State of Origin, and he got told by the New South Wales coaches, because he was one of the few guys in the New South Wales pack that could stand up to the Queensland. He got told to go out there and just basically go crazy. He got 3.5 months suspension for that jaw breaking,
Wow.
right? And he didn't dob in his coaches. He came back, played 3 games, got suspended for 12 months for eye gouging. That was the end of his career. So he was a dirty, dirty player, but that was how the game was played back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
It was a dirty, dirty thing. So some amazing players on that list, though. Great to see Benji Marshall on there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's a great call for Benji, and he's a very, very worthy member, joining 3 other Kiwis in the Hall of Fame: Mark Graham, Ruben Wiki,
Gary Freeman. Gary Freeman.
No, not Gary Freeman.
Is he not in there? He bloody should be. I better get on my bandwagon about that. It's ridiculous. Stacey Jones should be in there at some stage as well.
Stacey Jones is the other one, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And also, of course, they inducted one last immortal, Ron Coote, who played 381 first-class games, went on 2 Kangaroo tours, played 23 test matches, won 6 premierships, 4 with South Sydney and 2 with Eastern Suburbs, was an Australian captain as well. Hall of Fame number 71. Ron Coote is the 14th immortal, which is a good call for me. They had Cameron Smith. They had some other players in there from more sort of modern times. I think it's good to go back to those older guys that did their thing for so long. And We're great. I think it's better to get those guys in there first.
Well, I mean, Cameron Smith will be named an
Of
immortal
course he
at
will.
some
He's
stage, but
the greatest rugby league player ever. But I mean, he's only in his what? He's not even 40, is he? I mean, I don't know. So he's got time to be
yeah,
an immortal.
exactly.
Yeah.
Quite right indeed. Now the Black Caps recently released their contracted players for the new year. Some
Yep.
players in, some players out, and
Yeah. Well, a couple have excluded themselves, haven't they?
a couple have excluded themselves. That it's a different game now to what it
It's a wait.
you
Yeah.
know. Now that all the money's in the T20 arena.
Yep.
Players are picking and choosing where they want to play. Devon
Yep.
Conway, though, has got a special contract to allow him. He's still contracted to New Zealand cricket, but he's sort of got, I guess you could call it what do they
Dan
call
Carter
it?
clause.
Yeah.
You can go and play wherever you want and then come
The
back and play for
sabbatical
us.
clause,
Yeah,
where
almost.
he can go off and play in the South African T20 and
Whatever
one other one
around the
apart
world.
from
The mercenary T20, whichever
yeah.
mercenary league around the world is
But
happening.
I think it only means he misses out on a couple of T20 series for New Zealand.
T20 is going to be at the next Olympics, mate.
I know.
I mean, come on. It's bloody ridiculous. And they're taking breakdancing away. God, that was the best
We forgot
thing
to
at
talk
the
about that,
Olympics.
didn't we? In our Olympics report, Ray Gun.
Mate, I honestly think you'd be a better breakdancer than her.
Oh, anyway,
I've seen you spinning in your chair doing better moves than her, mate. Anyway, enough of Ray Gun. But
we won't go on about that. On the
T20.
brighter side, well, actually, no. Before we go on to the brighter side, are these Black Cap contracts still worth it, or is it now an outdated system?
They're almost a bit outdated. Well, they are outdated, but it's what else can they do to try and keep the players here? I mean,
they're obviously
what else
not paying them enough. I don't know if they've ever had a pay rise since they first instituted it.
And remember, they went on strike to get the contracts.
Well, I mean, Kane Williamson, he's not contracted now, is he?
Well, he doesn't want to be. Why would he want to be when he can earn millions for playing a few weeks? I mean, this is the thing. I mean, if we drill down on what we're trying to say here, you got contracts for cricketers. There's three different types of cricket. You got contracts for cricketers. Do you have three different types of contracts? Do you have one contract? Then there's all different types of leagues regarding all those cricket. So there's Test cricket, which is played around by just the international. Then there's first class cricket. So that's played in all countries around. And then there's T20 cricket, which is played bastardized all around the world. They probably play it in Antarctica, mate. Who knows? But that's the thing. I mean, so how do you contract the cricketer? How do you, we want you for this period of time. We want you for these period of matches. We want you for just this type of match. It's just so hard because the sport is splintering. It's changing, and there's three versions of it. I mean, it's the only sport in the world where there's three different versions. I can't think of another thing. I know at the next Olympics, going back to the Olympics, they're going to have flag football, aren't they, as well? That's another sport they're bringing to the Olympics, which is basically like touch rugby with sort of, but they can throw the ball forward. I mean, that's
American
another
football
version. American football. But, you're bastardizing the original product, and people still love the original product. The original product of cricket is Test cricket. I know people, and anytime you say, they don't bring the crowds in, but millions watch on TV. People still love Test cricket.
Oh,
don't they?
100%. I wouldn't go across the road to watch a T20 game. But I'll sit at the Basin Reserve for 5 days and watch a Test.
Exactly. So, look, Test cricket is dying a slow death. In 10 years, there'll only be 3 countries playing Test cricket. It'll be England, Australia, and India, won't it? Those 3 countries, and the rest of the teams will be running. All the best players from the rest of the teams will be bucking off from their home countries and going and playing in T20 leagues around the world. That's what they'll do, because that's how they make money. That's how they make a living, and that's what's going to happen if the people at the top don't give a shit about Test cricket. It's going to die. And every time they've just brought out this new thing about, oh, we're going to celebrate Test cricket and the 100th thing. We're going to have a test. It's going to be England versus Australia. I'm like, you guys already play. Okay, I live in Auckland. The last test match in Auckland was 2018. Okay. Since 2000, how many tests do you think there've been in Auckland? Since 2000. So 24 years, a quarter of a century, there's been 10 test matches in Auckland.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
That is an indictment on the sport, Not everyone can pack up and go down to Hamilton every time you want to watch a test. Well, we live in by far the biggest city. So the sport is dying. I think that's kind of what's happening. Are the people at the top going to give a shit about Test cricket?
On a brighter note, we've been given a 4-test series against Australia in Australia in a couple of years.
I couldn't believe it. But see, that is just an Amazon in the an oasis in the distance, isn't it? It's just here it is. Keep watching Test cricket. It's here. Oh, it's getting closer. There it is. You shit your pants. You lost again. You won't play again for another 10 years. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's really strange. New Zealand aren't playing that well when they play us. Well, we never fucking play you. Of course, we're not getting any better. All our best players are pissing off and going to play in T20 leagues.
So, it's Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, and Sydney.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I want to go to the Adelaide Test. So I've been to a Boxing Day Test now, and went to Adelaide when we went last year for the Supercars, and I went to a day of South Australia versus Victoria. What a beautiful cricket ground. I'd love to sit there for 4 or 5 days watching Test cricket.
I could definitely see you baking on one of those banks, mate. Yeah, definitely. Right. That is a bucket list place, the Adelaide Oval, to watch some Test cricket for sure.
100%. 100%. Now there's something very close to our hearts starting up in Barcelona.
Barcelona!
And it's New Zealand's home defense of the America's Cup.
America's Cup. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Off the coast of Barcelona.
Yeah.
Well, who's got it? TVNZ?
No, it's actually TV3.
TV3. They probably pulled the rights out from under TVNZ's nose. So we'll see lots of advertising on TV3. Oh, it's so exciting. You should watch it.
My question to you is, Aaron, will you be following it?
Well, at the moment, I say absolutely not. It's absolutely boring as batshit, and no, absolutely no way. But if we start winning, I'll pile on. I'll probably become. That's what I always say. I say, I'm not interested. It's absolutely crap. And then New Zealand start winning. It's like anything, really.
New Zealand start winning. Is it New Zealand though anymore?
No, it's not. It's never. It hasn't been New Zealand since the days of Michael Fay, mate.
Yeah,
has it really?
But it's all overseas.
If it's a black boat and it's got New Zealand on it, I'll probably
give me a break.
Hey, yachting's in the Olympics.
Yeah, proper yachting. We won a couple of medals there too.
Yeah, it is. It's just, I think after they took it away from New Zealand, it's sort of like everyone's just gone, "What? We won, and you're not even fucking having it over here. What's the point?"
Formula One used to be very country related.
Yeah, focused.
Not now. Very country focused, but not now.
Yeah.
I mean, well, if I said to you that the Williams team are based in the UK, would you have known that?
Yeah, because of Mr. I know that because Frank Williams. Yeah, I know that, but the man in the street wouldn't. Well, I suppose the clue's in the name for our boat, isn't it? It's not called Team New Zealand anymore. It's called Emirates Team New Zealand, isn't it?
Well, Emirates Team New Zealand.
There's another country before our country on the name of the fucking team, mate. So there you go.
Quite right. So anyway, enough.
There's a bit of bad language in this half, isn't there? There's been a little bit of bad language. You better put an R rating on this one.
Yeah. Let's have a look and see what's happening in the world of baseball with.
Okay.
Oh, crikey, where are we? We're nearly the end of August, so you've only got about 6 weeks left of the regular season to go.
Where did that time go?
I know. Crazy. Some teams have been really surprising. When you look at the National League Central, Milwaukee, who I gave absolutely no chance to at the beginning of the season. Mind you, my baseball picks are bloody pathetic anyway. And Milwaukee is the only team in the National League Central with a winning record at the moment.
Wow.
They're 10 games ahead of St. Louis. Cubs are another half game back, and Cincinnati's another half game back. Dodgers are not running away with the National League
No.
West this year. Arizona Diamondbacks, since the All-Star break, something like 18 wins and 6 losses or something
Crazy.
like that, something crazy like that. San Diego's even better. They're like 19 wins and only 5 losses since the All-Star break. Just
Isn't that
incredible.
awesome?
So
Yeah, it's
they're both 4 games behind the Dodgers
the Dodgers.
and sitting sweetly in the wild card. Arizona and San Diego are leading the wild card standings, followed by Atlanta. Only other teams really with a respectable or realistic chance of getting in. The Mets are 1.5 games back, and the Giants 3.5 games back.
I
Uh,
thought the Mets were having a terrible season.
well, they were, but again, since the
They in the
All-Star break,
last.
they've been on it. In the National
Okay.
League, the Yankees lead the East. They just had another win this morning.
Make you a
Quite
happy man?
unbelievable, the Yankees story. They started out with a hiss and a roar,
Yeah, they did. Didn't
and
they?
then went through a really bad patch where they won, I think it was 11 out of 32 games or 33 games leading up to the All-Star break. Since then, they've been roughly even.
Yeah.
They're 22 games over 50, over 500. They're leading the American League East only by a game from Baltimore, who were my preseason picks to win the East. I didn't think the Yankees would do it. The Yankees are basically a 3-man team. You've
Yeah, I
got
was
Aaron
going to say
Judge.
before we move on, you
Yeah,
got to have a word about Aaron Judge. He hit his 300th homer or something the other day, didn't he?
300th homer the other day. He's also he's just got incredible numbers already this year. He's averaging 334,
That's
which is
amazing.
just stunning.
Yeah.
He hit his 48th homer of the season.
Jesus Christ.
He's already
Is
got
he going to hit?
118
Is
runs
he going
batted
to hit?
in.
Is he going to hit 60?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he's on
could.
target for 60 again.
Far out.
And batting one place above him is Juan Soto,
Juan Soto.
who is currently hitting 300. So he's basically
Yeah. Oh,
3 safe
terrible.
hits in every 10 at bats, it's quite weird, really, when you look at those stats to say that
300 is like almost like a goal a game if you equate it to football, isn't it? If you hit a
batting,
300,
yeah,
about a goal a game, you're well over what most people are, right?
batting 300, you're going in the Hall of Fame,
That's
basically.
right. Exactly.
But that also means that you're failing 7 times out of 10.
That's right. But that's baseball.
Yeah.
But that's baseball. You do fail. It's dealing with failure. It's learning from failure. And you're
So
hitting a move. It's one of the hardest thing in sports. I mean, you're hitting a moving object with a cylindrical bat. I
a
mean,
round moving ball with a round
exactly
bat. Yeah.
at 100 miles an hour. You're hitting it with a cylindrical thing, and then you're hitting it to actually get it anywhere. You have to hit it
Yeah.
400 feet. It's like ridiculous. I mean,
Mind you, I mean, when you look at Aaron Judge, he's
ground balls.
6'9" and
He's a big man.
285 pounds.
He's a huge man, isn't he?
He is
Huge
a huge
man.
man.
Is he
So
juicing?
Soto's hitting
Is he juicing?
300. He's got 36 homers, which is his best ever haul for homers.
Mm.
And he's going to finish up with over 100 RBIs as
So
well.
who's the third player?
Garrett Cole, the
Okay, yeah,
superstar pitcher, won the Cy Young Award. He had injury problems so far this year. He's only pitched in, I think, about 10 games or 12 games so far this season, but he's got a record of 5 wins and 2 losses. His earned run average is quite high because he had one really bad game when he first came back. But yeah, those 3 players, the rest of the Yankees hitting lineup, nobody is hitting over 260. Giancarlo Stanton, who last season, I was like, try and get rid of his contract. He's actually come back fitter and leaner this year and is actually hitting the ball really well. And so he's having
you're going to hang on to him.
season. Yeah, he's doing all right. And Anthony Volpe, shortstop, who's only in his sophomore season. He's
Mm.
hitting around 250, but he's a very streaky hitter.
Yeah.
He'll go, 35, 40 at bats and only get 2 or 3 hits, but then the next
Yeah.
35, 40 at bats, he'll get 28 hits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Nice.
as I say, apart from Judge and Soto, nobody's
Soto.
anywhere near.
But when they're doing what they're doing, you're still in the race, aren't you? So
Yep, they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll go very far in the playoffs. And other teams, I mean, the Diamondbacks, who thought that they would play so well this year
every bloody year. Well, not
after
every
making
year,
the
every
World
second
Series
year.
last year?
I
Yeah,
know. They just seem to, yeah. But that's baseball too, isn't
it
it?
is. And just looking at these AL Central, Cleveland sitting atop of the AL Central, even though the Yankees just beat them 2-1 in a series. Kansas City now, they've got a young guy by the name of Bobby Witt Jr., who
Mm,
is putting up numbers somewhere in between Judge and Stanton, and he's only in his third season.
mm.
Beginning of this year, the Kansas City Royals thought, we're not waiting 6 years to sign you to a long-term contract, son.
Yeah.
So they signed him for 10 years for
Whoa.
$380 million or something,
Whoa.
as a 21-year-old. So he is
Wow.
he is a superstar in the making, that kid.
Yeah. Great
Um,
name too.
yeah, Bobby Witt
Bobby
Jr.
Witt Jr.
Yeah.
Sounds
Um,
almost out of the movies.
and Kansas have surprised a lot of people. They're doing well this year. Houston Astros started out nightmarishly for the first half of the season, but they've somehow clawed their way back to the top of the AL West, 5 games ahead of your Seattle Mariners, who have been disappointing.
They have
This year. I really expected them
recently.
to go well. The
I
Rangers,
mean,
who won the World Series last year, are having a horrible season.
what about the Angels, our friend's team?
Yeah, Jeremy Elwood's team. Yeah, probably the less said about them, the better. Although
Okay,
Jeremy will tell me and will remind me endlessly that they beat the Yankees at 2-1 in a recent series. So
there you go.
there you go, Jeremy. I'll give you
Beat,
that one.
beat you in a
Um,
series, mate. In a
so the
series, not just a game.
Yankees, Cleveland Guardians, and Houston are leading the 3 divisions.
Yeah.
In the wild card, you've got Baltimore, Kansas City, and Minnesota. That probably looks like the how it's going to end up.
Yep.
Boston's 3.5 games back of those, the KC and the Minnesota Twins. And then you've got Tampa, Seattle. They're going to struggle to make the playoffs. They're
Mm,
7.5 games out. And as I say, there's only 6 weeks of the
yeah.
season left. So, yeah, interesting times. But, man, if you get a chance to watch a Yankees game, just to see Aaron Judge and Juan Soto hit, have a
Now,
go.
is Aaron Judge going to be the MVP though?
He
Because
has to
there's
be.
someone else. There's someone else
Well, Bobby
that's
Witt
good.
Jr. is
What about
pitching.
what about the big Japanese man?
No, he's National League to start with.
Oh yeah, okay. But on
And
the
he's
on the other
only
side,
hitting. He's
yeah.
only hitting this year. He's not pitching because he had
Oh, has he not pitched at all this year?
no, and he won't
Ah,
next
okay.
year.
Yeah, he's still doing pretty amazing things too, though, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm talking
He's
Shohei
still having a
Ohtani, of
great
course.
season. So is Mookie
Yeah,
Betts.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the Los Angeles Dodgers will do their normal thing of win the
Go.
win the National League West
Yeah,
easily
yeah.
and then get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs.
We'd all like to see that, mate. We'd all like to see that. Now,
Everybody.
before we sign off, you got anything else you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Shane Van Gisbergen and
Oh
Scott
yeah.
McLaughlin are
Yep.
going gangbusters in their different
Yep.
motor racing ventures.
I
And
love the Indy cars, man. Watch the Indy cars all the time. Oh, that
yeah,
race the other day when Will Power got run into the back of. I just laughed and laughed and laughed. Will Power is just such a dick. He's just a dick, mate. And did you see when Scotty McLaughlin? That was the most angry I've ever seen when he got run off
yeah,
by Will Power. And he probably yelled at. I've never seen him so angry. He clapped him, didn't he? Gave him an ironic
he
clap
did.
as he
Yeah,
went past. I was like,
that's
yeah,
a good Kiwi thing to do.
you're supposed to be my teammate. And then the next race, when Will Power gets taken out, he didn't even mention him. Did you
Yeah,
notice that? And the after, and I thought, there's obviously now, but they started off all nice and powerly and everything, and now there's obviously a bit of beef between them, and I love that because willpower, man.
Complete and utter dick.
He is. He is.
Is that his real name?
It is his real name. I mean, his parents. What the? I know exactly. I mean, just call yourself William, or Bill. Yeah,
Bill.
My name's Willpower. Good one, buddy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good note to finish on. So,
it is.
yeah, hope you've enjoyed our big catch up in 2
Our
parts.
double parter.
Double parter. We'll be back again.
We'll catch up again soon. We will. We'll have to.
When the Premier League's well and truly underway, and
when the playoffs are just about to hit in the baseball too.
Absolutely. We might get Jeremy back and talk playoff baseball, because even
Talk
though he
Angels.
is just an Angels supporter, he's knows
knowledgeable, man,
about baseball in it.
He certainly does.
Yeah. So that's when he's not off gallivanting around the world doing his.
He's famous. He's famous.
Yeah.
Is there Edinburgh Fringe or something? Oh,
he's in Tonga at the moment.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. He's been doing cruise ships. Him and Michelle have been doing cruise ships, and
tough life.
He's in Tonga doing some gigs over there. So,
oh yeah, living it up in 30 degrees plus when we're shivering our asses off.
That's right.
Anyway,
that's right. Oh,
come
on
back
that
with
note,
a tan.
it's a good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are and whatever time you're watching this.
Whatever you're doing.
Goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him and me.